Greetings everyone, I'm Endcards the second, and welcome to another video on the new mob tweaks update. This is really not a good intro, is it? Welcome to another video on the new upcoming... Oh my god, that was a bad idea. Anyways, the new update for mob tweaks is called Geared Up for Mayhem. And check out this logo, by the way. It's really cool. It's made by Roman. You should check him out. He makes really good logos, and I usually hire him to make logos for my packs, so I'll leave a link to his socials in the description so you can commission a logo yourself. But regardless, I wanted to make another video showing some of the new features in this update, which I think are some of the best ones that I've done so far. Now, there's probably going to be 2 more videos in this series. One video showing all the new advancements, because there are a lot more than before. If you remember, there were like 3 more advancements, but look at this tree now. Way more stuff to do. And also, this right here, the custom GUI that I'm working on, it's still work in progress, but I've already done a lot of work on this, and I think it's coming along pretty greatly. So that's going to be probably the next 2 videos. Also, the baby Nautilus and the zombie Nautilus changes over there, I'm not going to show in this video. I'm actually going to just talk mainly about the mount changes, which I think are really great. But before we get into that, I wanted to actually show you some changes that I did to the stuff that I showed in the previous video, and I've added more on top of that. So instead of making another video to that, I just wanted to put it in this video. But as always, if you want to skip to a specific part of the update, I have chapters in this YouTube video, so you can just skip if you're not interested in that stuff to the mount updates, which I think are pretty cool. So the first thing I changed is that the mobs can no longer spawn with diamond equipment in the deep cave layers, only with gold equipment, because diamond was just too overpowered. Especially if you found a mob grinder, you could just easily get diamond equipment, so I thought that was a bad change. So I just changed it to gold, which isn't as good as iron, but it is more plentiful in the deep areas, so at least there's some justification to why it works that way. And also, as a consequence of that, I made it so that on the surface, it's no longer going to replace whatever tool the mobs have with a golden version if they have an iron tool, right? So instead, this guy had an iron shovel, now he has a wooden shovel. So instead of just being replaced with gold, which is kind of lazy in my opinion, it's going to be chance-based, and obviously most of the time it's going to be wooden, but trust me, they can have other ones. It's just I'm not getting lucky right now. But there you go, that's a stone shovel, and they even have a rare chance to keep the iron shovel, because iron isn't even that much of a deep material if you think about it, because it can generate higher up in the world. So I thought that's a good change, and I'll show you a bit more of how that works in here as well with the axes too. First, the swords work the same way as well, and spears, so there you go, that's a copper one right there. And yeah, the same thing applies to the axes, is that instead of just getting a gold axe, they're going to get different types of axes with different rarities, and I think that's a much better change. It actually deepens this aspect of the surface tool replacements instead of just making it a bit too simple with the changes that I added. Zombie villagers do not have the same armor replacements that the zombies and husks do, but they do have the same chances to get weapons, so they can get spears and sticks and swords. However, something that's unique about the zombie villagers is that they have a small chance, but a chance nonetheless, to get something in their offhand, and I'm not seeing this right now, unfortunately. That cartographer is holding an empty map, and this loot is actually from the gift loot tables that the zombie villagers have for when you have the hero of the village effect. They can give you these items on random, and that's what I'm doing with the offhand in these mobs. I just think it adds a bit more to the world of Minecraft, and it's a cool little addition, but that's specifically for the zombie villager. Like I said earlier, I'm not just replacing iron stuff with gold stuff anymore. I'm just changing it, and it's all chance-based, so it can be wood or it can be something else. But something that's interesting for the Badlands biome specifically is that these will never get iron tools anymore, but instead they now have a chance to get golden equipment, as you can see. So yeah, because it's in the Badlands biomes, instead of iron you get gold, and I think that's a good change. And the same thing goes for the pickaxes here as well. Oh, we got pretty lucky. And if he was not in the Badlands biome and if he was underground, it would be an iron pickaxe instead. And that's kind of it for the replacements of the different items. There's a couple more things, like drowned can have a chance to spawn with lily pads or ink sacs instead of nautilus shells outside of oceans, but I found that stuff not the most interesting, so I'm just going to leave it up to you to discover once the update actually comes out, or you know, you'll just be able to read the change logs. All the information will be here and also on the website and in the video that I will release for the whole update. So, but let's show you something new about the bounce. Here's the first thing I did, is that when a zombie spawns in riding a zombie horse, if it's a baby, it'll turn the horse into a baby as well. So you'll be able to get now baby versions of these undead horse mobs, which you weren't able to do before. So I think that's pretty cool. Well, technically before in mob tweaks, you could have gotten baby zombie horses from the zombie villages. Those are really rare. So this is a way better way of getting one. But also, as you saw earlier, the riders now have a chance to spawn with an item that will tempt the mob, sort of as an in-game tutorial. Right here is a good example of that. This guy has a red mushroom in his hand. And obviously I know they also drop them on death, but I thought this was a cooler way of demonstrating that. The horses now also have a chance to be equipped with armor, leather, copper, iron, and gold. Gold being the rarest, and I think it's a pretty cool addition to, yeah, mobs can do that in mob tweak. And I'll actually tell you more about the mounting and the jockey stuff a bit later, but first let's get through the horses. The skeleton horses also have that same chance, and if these guys spawn in as babies, that'll also change the horse into a baby. So that's a baby skeleton horse, and the babies cannot be equipped with armor because in the next drop, they're not going to render anyways, so I just made that an exclusive thing to the adults. So only the adults can get armor on their horses when they spawn in. But there you go, that's a way of getting baby undead horses, which wasn't a thing before, really. That's not the only improvement I did with the jockey stuff in this update. If you were playing the previous updates, you might have run into this issue earlier. In mob tweaks, a lot of mobs can mount other mobs, and that includes passive mobs. For example, this sheep right here. It's all randomized, they don't pathfind to the mob, but there you go. They have a chance to do that. Now the problem earlier is that once they get on the mob, they will not get off the mob, which if this happens somewhere out of your view, would become a problem. And if, for example, this skeleton was riding a pig, it would just stay persistent in the world. It doesn't take damage from wolves or the sunlight. And in this update, I added a chance for these undead mobs to spawn with pumpkins on their heads. So that makes it kind of problematic because sometimes they will just never despawn from sunlight damage because pumpkins do not have durability. And you'll just have persistent mobs in your world, and that's not really something you want, right? So this is the solution. First of all, they no longer mount any passive mob or mobs that most likely will not despawn unless they are targeting a player. So it kind of follows the Mojang philosophy of if bad things happen, it must be either the player's fault or the player must be there to see them happen, or at least it should be preventable. And this is one of those things. If they are not targeting a player, they will not attempt to ride a mob. Only if they are aggroed on a player, so it doesn't even count if it's a villager or a baby turtle or a golem, only for players. They will now have a chance to mount other mobs in pursuit of the player. And as you saw earlier, if they don't have a target anymore, if I just go into creative, they also have a chance to dismount the mob. So there you go, problem solved. Really good addition to this update, and I really should have thought of this earlier, but hey, at least I'm patching it now, and it's going to highly improve your experience. I made an exception for jockeys of, skeleton horses and camel husks and zombie horses and chickens and all that stuff. They will not automatically dismount, but the fact that they will no longer mount these mobs without players being the target of their aggression is already a big plus, so it's not going to be an issue, hopefully. It'll be pretty much solving this problem 90% of the time, if not more, so I'm pretty happy with the solution. And the last thing I wanted to show you is something for the players, actually, something that will be useful to you. And honestly, this is one of the best features in this entire data pack. I really think that, so let me show you why it's so good. They've been here for a long time. In fact, I can just speed up the game by 100 times or so. They will never leave this area because they have a settle on. That's basically the feature. So I know camels are kind of slow and lazy, maybe not the best demonstration, but this applies to pretty much any mount you have. Nautilus mobs, pigs, striders, horse mobs, donkeys, mules. You can make it so that if you want the mob to stay put, it's going to stay put. So watch what happens when I speed the game up by 100 times or so. As you will see, I put the horse in the middle of that radius, and that horse will never wander out of this small 8-block radius, which is a great help. Let me actually summon another horse so you can really see the difference here. That horse is already out of the wandering radius. You no longer have to worry about digging horse holes or tying them up to a fence to just have a lead on you and a fence on you just so that your horse or camel doesn't wander around when you're not looking, when you're just taking a pit stop to do something while traveling. This feature is so great, and it really improves the game a lot in my opinion. And yes, if another mob does steal your horse, it's going to be able to reset its home position, which is what I'm using for this. But the thing is, it only happens if it's aggroed on you, so it's kind of your fault if that happens, or at least it's easily preventable. So it's not really going to be an issue, but if the horse does have a rider, for example, if I ride the horse and I get off the horse, this is now its home position, so it's not going to wander in an 8-block radius around where I got off the horse. And if you don't want them to have this behavior, if you want your mounts to roam around for whatever reason, just take off their saddle. And now the horse is free to go wherever it wants without any issue. This horse is now well outside of this little area that I constructed for demonstration purposes, and that's basically the feature for you. It's actually very easily implemented. There you go, that is a huge improvement to mounts in the game, and I think this is going to be long-term one of the best features in this pack for sure. I don't have to build horse holes for them whenever I'm using them for travel. Long term, you still want to build stables for the horses because, like I've said previously, if a mob is targeting you, it can steal your horse, and if it travels with the horse, it'll reset the horse's home position. So it's not like building stables is completely unnecessary now, but it just makes these mounts way more usable in traveling and adventuring. I know I gotta stop glazing myself, but I think this is one of the greatest things that I've added to this pack at least, and I hope you agree. And that's basically all I wanted to show you in this episode. There might be a couple more things that I forgot about the mounts, but those are the main things that are upcoming in this update. And the next 2 episodes are going to be about the baby Zombie Nautilus and the Zombie Nautilus variants, of which there are now many, as you can tell. And then I'm going to make a video about all the new advancements and this feature right here with the custom GUIs. So stay tuned, and if you enjoyed this data pack, make sure to keep up with the development, because eventually I'm gonna drop this update. I've had a problem so far. This update has suffered through a lot of scope creep, and I've been adding so many new features I'm not even keeping up anymore. But thankfully the scope is now narrowing down, so I don't have that many new things that I need to still add. Eventually it's going to be finished and released either for Mounts of Mayhem 1.21.11 or Tiny Takeover 26.1. Not sure which one yet, but we'll have to see when we get there. That's it for this video. Don't forget to smash subscribe, ring my bell, and as always, stay